Where do we get our truth from? This video, I'd like to continue looking at this book by Addison Hodges Hart, who is a retired chaplain of the Anglican tradition, who is also a Zen teacher of some description. Now, he's written this book, The Ox Herder and the Good Shepherd. The Ox Herder, there's 10 kind of artistic plates like these things here, which have a series of commentary and poetry attached to them. They're very beautiful, about a man who goes in search for the bull, for the ox. And I'm only on number 2 here, where he's found, the first one is the perplexion of the way of like waking up, I need to find this bull. And which path, which way? The second is discovering the footprints. And Addison Hodges Hart, he goes through each of these plates, 1 to 10, in quite some detail. And I really liked what he had to say about the finding of the footprints, the second plate, where he's saying that's akin to scripture, where we come across scripture and the scripture points us to the ox, but it's not the ox itself. The footprints signal, teach about, help us to discern the way, but in and of themselves, they aren't the way. They aren't the ox. The ox which this man will eventually ride, tame, and even ultimately, in some ways, transcend before he re-enters the marketplace of the world to live amongst people in simplicity and humility as a teacher. Addison makes the point that too often we get fixated as Christians. We get fixated with the footprints. Look how much division there is within Christianity. I'm quite exhausted with it, to be honest. I'm frustrated with it. The fact that there's barely a church I can think of that I could go to where it wouldn't mean an exclusive, it wouldn't ultimately mean an exclusive membership to that church. It wouldn't mean saying we're right and they are wrong. We've got it all sewn up and they're simply wrong. They ain't even Christian. All following the same footprints. And I wonder whether we fixate, when it comes to Christianity, whether we fixate so much on Christology, ecclesiology, the who Christ is, the metaphysics of the true God and the true man, the nature of the church, where this church is historically. Did the resurrection really happen? Did the virgin birth actually occur as Luke portrays it? Or was it more like Matthew? Or was it somehow a merger of both? We spend so much time in this water that we never actually follow the prints of Christ, follow the ways of Christ, follow in the way. I don't know. So it seems to me. So it seems to me that we can get lost. Addison uses the term, you can also, you almost become a trachologist, or I don't know how he quite puts it now, but, a PhD expert in footprints, having never seen the ox, having never ridden the ox, having never known the ox. So there's a lot in this that we can relate to ourselves. One thing I'm really enjoying in these days of exploring, re-exploring the Buddhist way is its emphasis on interior investigation. I heard an Ajahn Amaro, the abbot of a Thai forest tradition in England. I heard it, was it, I don't want to misrepresent him, but I'm pretty sure it was himself that was asked about the life of the Buddha with all the mythology and legends attached to his birth narrative and the likes. Quite in some ways similar to the narratives of Jesus's miraculous birth, not too dissimilar. And he said, "Look, even if Buddha had never actually lived, it wouldn't make any difference, because I'm a Buddhist because of the practice, the interior investigation. That is what is important. Not and every religion is full of mythology. Every religion is full of symbolic and ancient tales from, founders who go missing for 3 days and then suddenly turn up with all kinds of new information, to founders who die and rise again, founders who ascend into heaven and are proclaimed sons of God. This was all there in the Greco-Roman world before Christianity. Peoples miraculously rescued by a strong and mighty hand. And for some, these stories are very, very important. But I think it's quite interesting that you need a PhD mostly to navigate and to really discern, are these actually, is it so? Is it really so? Is it so like yesterday was so? Is it so like today is so? Very difficult. The world we face is not a world where we set foot to the edge of a lake and it splits in two. And no matter how much fasting and praying we do, that's not the nature of the world that we're in. But what is important in all of these faiths is the food for the heart, is the knowledge, the interior knowledge of how to live well. How to live well. We can find that in all of the religions. Ajahn Chah, these are beautiful writings. And Ajahn Chah is an incredible, he was an incredible Buddhist teacher, an old Thai monk. He was asked, somebody asked him and said, look, I asked my Zen teacher, I said, look, what was Buddha doing under the Bodhi tree? He says he was doing Zazen, of course. He said, I don't believe you. He said, what do you mean you don't believe me? I don't believe you. Why not? And he said, look, because I asked Goenka, and he said he was doing Vipassana meditation. So each teacher says he was doing what they practice. And Ajahn says, ultimately, he put it a lot better than this, but ultimately, he was under that tree investigating reality. Call it what you want. He was investigating reality for himself, moment to moment. This is the nature of my reality. This is the nature of my mind. When I have an angry thought, I burn inside. When I have a lustful thought, these pleasant or unpleasant sensations emerge. If I act on them, it leads me down this garden path or that garden path. And then there is these sensations or those sensations. There is this scattered mind or that scattered mind. There is this feeling of regret or that. This is because that was conditioned reality. What we sow is what we reap. The activity, the consequences of our mental activity This is what Buddha was doing under the tree. Investigating reality by himself, in himself, and in the whole universe, because we're like one leaf of the tree. You know, one leaf, you pretty much know them all. I think that's from Ajahn Chah. You know, one leaf of the Bodhi tree, and we are that one leaf. I am that one leaf. And you know, the whole human race, we're all leaves of the same tree. Investigating deeply into reality as it is, moment to moment, strikes me as pure religion. If one wants to attach words and labels, it's finding God where God is, beyond the ruminations of the mind, in the silence, in the stillness. It's not getting frozen on the footprints. It's not saying, look, I've found the footprints. Now let's build a church on the footprints. We must follow the way. And I think we'll find, if we do follow that way, that the true way of Christ, not of high ecclesiology, not of the church, but of Christ, and the way of Buddha are really not so dissimilar. And I think we'll find, mutatis mutandi, the way of all great spiritual masters are very similar indeed. I'll leave it there. Just some ruminations on stuff I've been reading and taking to meditation.